Um, we were talking about one of the girls talking about her back injury and some issues that have been persistent on that front. And she said, I had asked how long you've been experiencing this, and it kind of goes back to college. A very similar kind of circumstance that I had experienced, and she had said like the doctors had told her, it's like, we got to do X, Y, and Z. We're gonna need to do surgery, and then like you could potentially have permanent nerve damage. And the way she told me that today, I could feel how much that what they had said to her is still ruminating in her very thought, which is then also tied to every movement and experience around the back. Also tells me why that going into this, maybe going in for treatment, she's not expecting anything because the experience individually isn't conducive for having a favorable outcome. Her totality around the mindset of the overall experience she's been continuing to have with this back opportunity, if you will, has put her in a place of kind of accepting this is how things are. And this is just
We got to change the mindset around that. And we'll get into our unique experiences. I know we've kind of talked about it in the other episodes that we've been in, but doctors are very like fix problem after happens. Let it get to a point where it's so bad that now we can cut or prescribe. And thank God it's changing. And it's not a doctor's fault, it's the education system's fault.
Yep.
In a lot of ways, right? And that's just what they have to say to maintain their job.
Yeah.
Because if they're not doing those things, then they're pushing the it's a business. They're pushing the money to another industry or another business when they're trying to fix them, which is, understandable. And it's not their fault because that's not their mindset. It's what the textbooks are teaching them because the people that write the textbooks understand that part of it.
Say that one more time. Please say that one more time, because this is one of the biggest things within the education system, especially around, I'd say,
medicine.
Disconnect with medicine and actual health.
Yep. So it's not a doctor's fault that they're jumping to these conclusions and telling people these outcomes because it's what they're taught in school and what they have to say under their licenses and everything like that. Because the people that are building the textbooks, the people that are funding the research, the people that are doing everything, it all comes from the place of money, right?
Yeah.
So it's pharmaceuticals and it's medical device equipment and it's all this other stuff that is being used to fix problems after they're done and not in terms of preventative care or actually working towards a better goal rather than just the outcome where you really don't have to do any work and then it's fixed.
Yes.
Without some like minor PT. And we'll get into that. But
that actually, yeah, that brings me to an amazing secondary point. And this, Lacasse and I were having this wonderful conversation around this on our drive out to Montreal. And this is also something I'm sure everybody knows. If you know me, you know how passionate I am about mental health, mental well-being, and mental performance. And I have experienced more than my fair share of the medical path of the mental health world. And this is a very interesting phenomenon where you can take the same person, they can go see 3 different professionals in a respective field. They might come out with 3 different diagnoses and prognoses because most doctors, as you mentioned, right, this is what they're taught. This is what they're taught in school. So if you see someone who specializes in the shoulder, you see someone who specializes in the neck, you see someone who specializes in the back, they might tell you 3 different potentialities as to what's wrong with you, because what you seek, you will find. What you're taught to see, you will find in that person. That's part of projection. And this is one of the biggest things in the mental health world that I don't think it's really actually being investigated nearly enough. But the whole thing around mental health is there's a lot of subjective reasoning in how you come up with an individual's diagnosis, right? You're trying to take what you can about one person. Let's say it's, we'll use me as an example, right? I'm 32 years old. We get 1 hour together, right? We get our first hour. You're going to give me a diagnosis in everything that you're seeing of me in a 30 minute to 1 hour time frame, without actually being able to know and understand every depth and level of my existence that has led me to this experience. And you're going to see it based on what you're predisposed to already seeing, what kind of fits the typical labels, right? And here's the interesting piece, right? An individual goes in to seek help, and they're met. So they're already opening up, being in a very vulnerable state. And they're also fearful. And then the information that they receive immediately becomes imprinted on them and starts to become who they are. I'll give you an example. Someone says, all right, listen, yeah, from everything you've told me, you have anxiety. I have anxiety. Oh, I'm anxious.
Yeah.
Now they are starting to, they took that label and now they're making it their own. There's power in understanding what labels are, but I feel like most people are held captive by the power of a label, and they become that label, so much so their identity, who they are and how they relate with others, if that label is removed, they are lost.
It develops a horrible loop of self-talk.
Yeah,
We're in your head, and it happened to me. Let's talk about my knee situation, right? So I was told at 24 I have arthritis in both my knees from a doctor. We can go through the whole process of me figuring that out. Through sport, I had bad knees. I kept using them, working them. It got to a point where I could barely sit on a plane. I couldn't make it through a whole movie in a movie theater without standing up and walking around, all that kind of stuff, because the pressure would build up. So I go to a doctor, or I try and make an appointment to get an MRI, because I know it's something there that we're going to see, not anything else. And then they go, you have to go to your primary care physician. So one copay to get the insurance money. And they go, okay, now you need to get an x-ray. And I was like, I need an MRI. They're like, well, you can't get an MRI without getting an x-ray first. And I'm like, it's not anything with the bone. So why do I have to get an x-ray? So like, just the way that it is. So then I have to wait 2 weeks before I get my appointment with my x-ray. And I had to wait 2 more weeks for my appointment to get my MRI. And you go in, you do it, and then they do the MRI, and you wait another month or so for some specialist to look at it. And I get to sit down in the room with the lady that was the specialist that could see me at the time, that looked at my images. And she goes, you have no cartilage in your knees. You have arthritis in both of your knees. You're going to be a great candidate for a knee replacement. What my suggestion would be is to stop intense exercise for the next 6 years, so you can delay the knee replacement as long as possible, because they last about 25 years. So if you get a knee replacement at 30, 31, then it'll last you into like your 60s, and then you'll probably be able to have it for the rest of your life. And I said, thank you very much. Got up and I walked out. And the way that most people would take that is, a doctor told me, if I didn't have the sports and training background that I had, I'd be like, a doctor told me this is what the blueprint they told me to follow. And it's just like oh, my knees are bad. And now I'm just thinking that I am just delaying the onset of 6 years to get a knee replacement, rather than there are things that you can do to make it better. But they're just taught that if somebody's knees are this bad, then the natural next step is to stop using them and then get a knee replacement, because that will make them feel better. And yes, unfortunately, the majority of the population is going to go for that easy route. You know what I mean? And that seems to be easier, because there's just no work involved in that diagnosis.
Yeah.
Right. Where as a trainer, like, I'm very aware of telling somebody that they need to do a bunch of stuff. And a lot of the population, thank God we work with mostly athletes that are just like crazy driven individuals. Most of the people don't want to put in the work to get the outcome to have it. So that might resonate with most people. But what I said was, screw that. I'm a bodybuilder. I like to play sports. I like to do all this other stuff. I'm going to do as much research as I possibly can into how I can fix my knees. And I took it as more of a challenge than I did anything else. And I found my dream outcome and then figured out how to work towards it. And at 31 years old, my knees feel better than they did when I was 18.